All right, welcome to Cityworks and Esri for public engagement. Presenting today, we have Carl Alexander, our GIS SME here at Cityworks, and Francis Kelly with the Esri Partner Network. I just want to remind everyone that on the Live Now button, if you scroll down, there is a questions tab. You can click on questions and enter any questions that you have. At the end, I will run through the questions, and what we don't have time to get to, we will be answering offline at a later time. Please feel free to review different sessions we have. We really appreciate the feedback. And then also stop by and see our sponsors and partners and exhibitors in the expo hall. You guys ready? You guys can get started.
Thanks, Ashley. And welcome everybody, and appreciate you all being here with us this morning. Just really quick, we wanted to put the safe harbor statement out there. I'm not going to read it or anything. I'm sure you've seen it all week or for the last 2 days anyways. But we're really excited to have Francis on with us today, and he's going to talk about Esri and the community engagement, their platform, and then I'm going to show a few examples of ArcGIS Hub with Cityworks data, ArcGIS dashboards with Cityworks data, configuring, those two solutions and other solutions, how we do that through Cityworks, and then we'll kind of wrap it up and should have some time at the very end for a few questions. So Francis, we'll go ahead and let you get started here.
Carl, thanks so much. It's so great to be here this morning. Happy Tuesday to everybody out there. Or is it Wednesday? Everything kind of blurs for us these days as we kind of come out of what has been kind of lockdown for many of us and out into the open. So I'm really stoked to be here with my good friend Carl and to talk a little bit about Hub, or maybe remind some of you out there about ArcGIS Hub. And this solution has been with us for quite a bit at Esri. And really, when we look at Hub, we look at a all-inclusive community engagement platform. And the more I think about the community I'm a part of, the more I think about, how does my community really engage with me, and really how do they really kind of embrace me in the initiatives, the activities, and the events that are really important to me and pertinent to me. So ArcGIS Hub really provides that. And for those of you out there who are part of our community, who are customers of ours, ArcGIS Online includes Hub. So getting started really isn't that big of a leap, and we're going to show you some examples today and point to some publicly facing websites so you can get more engaged with Hub and really see through those examples and closing the loop on those examples what Hub can do in your community. So really what I want to do is get to that next slide and really set some context around really what we think about when we think about community. So if we can go to the next slide. When I look at a smart community and when I think smart cities, I actually think more about smart being informed. And when we think about communities being resilient or sustainable or healthy or safe or innovative, collaborative, livable, and prosperous, really I think about being informed. And that's what I think a lot of cities want to do, is become smart by achieving all these goals. But we kind of face challenges of really sharing information about the resiliency of our community or the safety initiatives we might have, and sharing that information even before COVID was not easy for organizations and especially our governments. And really some organizations in some cities haven't modernized the way, in fact, that they deliver data at this point. So if we go to the next slide, I think that kind of sets that context of what current engagement looks like and really what we'd want to kind of develop as we move out of that. Because really, as someone who is really actively involved in my community, in the cycling community, the past engagement to really understand what our community was doing was sitting down and going to a meeting, and that really took a lot of time and took a lot of energy, and really that really didn't get a lot of people engaged in those initiatives, right? And then if you even wanted to go to a website, some of the information that you wanted to gather was just confusing, and it was hard just to simply get at and really become actionable. So that, I think, leads to some level of fatigue for your community members, be they internal or external, that the current engagement and this confusing information doesn't allow for them to really find and discover and stay close to their community and those initiatives that are making them sticky to that community. And also, really, we want to modernize that engagement. So as we look at Hub and some examples, we'll jump to that next slide and look at some examples that we've shown and really can maybe inspire some thinking for you folks who are joining us today. So when we started out with Hub, we talked a lot about open data, and really that being the first step in providing that information. If we think back to that last slide, there's like a lot of confusing information, but really we wanted to connect with that data and open it up. And the best way, in my opinion, to view that is really through mapping and location. So as you can see here in Maryland's Department of Health, they stepped forward, as many communities did, and said, hey, we want to build trust by showing an authoritative map and showing what's going on in our community. And in this example, showing really something that's really key to us is what's going on with COVID and that disease outbreak. And then as we went forward, saying, hey, how do we include some confidence in vaccination? So if we move to the next slide, if we start out with that connecting and opening the data, the next thing we want to do is increase transparency in what we're providing our community. And here we see a really great permitting metric wiki with a process and a workflow that kind of establishes some knowledge for you. As I mentioned, a smart community is a smart city is an informed city, and they not only want to know how do I get a permit, but what other permits might be out there. So we want to really improve that public perception through engagement. The deeper the engagement, the closer we are to our community. So if we move to the next slide and we look at more of the next step is really as you grow in that first step of opening the data, including some transparency on the initiatives that are important to you and your community. Then we want to take that next step and say, who are our stakeholders? Who are those people who are really out there in the community, engaging other people? They might not work directly for the city, but they might be really important to us because they involve the community, or they're probably maybe someone who's spearheads a mission or a non-for-profit. And we want those stakeholders to be closer to those initiatives. And that's where we really drive this change, by building those key partnerships with our community and really establishing some connectivity, going from, hey, there's a bunch of people who can see some initiatives and see what we're doing, but then we want some kind of feet on the street reporting back maybe what's going on, what's really we hear, and what we want to plan for in the future. And we drive change by building those partnerships and affording those individuals in the organization maybe an identity to our system, so they can report back to us how things are going, what's working and what's not. So again, you can collaborate with your stakeholders, be those fairly passive who just want to know something about the community and stay connected, to those people who are really active and we want their tactile connectivity to the data and maybe expose different information to them, or maybe have them maybe expose information to us that we might not normally see as a community leader. And as we move forward in the next slide, these are the kind of engagement patterns of use that I wanted to share with the group, to say, hey, as we look out into the field and look at the many examples that we have from our customers and also our partners, as we've rallied around Hub as our partner organization, we've selected specific partners who can achieve a specialty in developing and delivering Hub initiatives and helping you with really establishing the first, second, third, and beyond steps of your engagement strategy. So if we look at these engagement patterns of use, these are the common patterns that we see out there. Right now, we want to communicate important topics to our community. We want to share that key data and that content, and then we want to involve more people. I can't say enough how much that community involvement and that community engagement goes beyond just hosting a website and showing you, the facts are friendly, even when they're good, even when they're not so good, and there's some process improvement. We want to take that next step in involving more people in our initiatives and get them deeper engaged to bring more people forward in that transparency, that visibility, and making that information actionable. And then, and only then, can we like build trust and inspire that action, right? Because the more things we know, the more information we're shared with, that gives us that trust, and that inspires us to take action and become closer to our community. So these are the kind of things that we see in the common patterns of use for ArcGIS Hub. We invite you to take that first step. As I mentioned, those of you who are customers of Esri have access to Hub, and then Hub Premium would be your next step in your journey in community engagement. And really, there's no better place to start than opening up that data, sharing those initiatives, and then getting that connectivity, that stickiness with your community. And hopefully, I've made some good shared some good thoughts with you today, and this will feed well into Carl's presentation. Carl?
Yeah, thanks, Francis. It does seem like ArcGIS Hub is really starting to take off, doesn't it? But people and organizations are really wanting to utilize it, and finding a lot of really cool and innovative ways to use it.
There's such a great community out there with Hub. And if you go to the hub.arcgis.com, you can not only see initiatives created by Esri, but also those community initiatives that are shared. And you can just really pull those down and begin working with them. And I think you're right that Hub has had momentum over the last year and a half that really goes beyond just saying, hey, we're just going to open the data. We're going to have some actionable information here. It's really exciting. In state and local government, where I stay very close, it's amazing what our customers have been able to achieve with Hub.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, Francis. I do want to spend the next little bit showing a couple of examples, and they're, as we talk about, how Hub fits into the Cityworks community. With the Cityworks data, we've had so many different ideas and different options, and different discussions on the best way to start utilizing Hub, to show Cityworks and how it can really fit into AMS and PLL and all the different aspects and areas there. But here, just for today's demonstration, we have set up an ArcGIS Hub site that is kind of centered around public access. And for everybody that doesn't know, public access is where your customers, the developers, contractors can go, submit and see information about their permits and development and different things like that. But it really is just kind of this, very starts out as just kind of that login site. And so here we've been able to use Hub to give a lot of context around public access. And so right at the beginning, we were able to, have some information to really explain, what your permit is, what the process is, at the very top, what you need to create an account, what you need to select your application, what documents you need, what do you need so somebody doesn't go in there to get a permit and doesn't have all the information needed. So they can get all that information together, now go into public access, put in their username and password, and go ahead and create their permits. We're able to, below that is start to take some permit information out of Cityworks, sharing that based on the EURL, and be able to give, customers, contractors, developers, information about the permit process and be able to see where they're at, and how it's going. And then, after that, able to really explain, in here, actually about the permit process. So most people's permit processes has statuses that, as they trickle through that process, they change. And a lot of places have a lot of questions about that, about, how long am I going to be in plan review? What happens after my permits issues? And so this really alleviates a lot of those questions and comments, that staff may be getting for that. And then we're able to easily incorporate a web map here at the bottom of taking all the open permits and adding those and embedding those into this Hub site. And so you're able to really see that, at the location, where all your open building permits for this example, and then as you could see, all the Cityworks data that was there available. And lastly, a calendar here with some of the important meetings that might come up, that may affect or have, that people might want to go to. So here in this process, as part of the building permit issue, it has in here, if you need water, go ahead and fill out the new meter install request. And this part is actually embedding a survey 123 survey into our hub site. And this is very basic and really simple just for example purposes. But the way that this is set up is somebody can go in now, put in their contact information, email, check their service type, and then also put in their address and submit this survey for a new meter install. So say they're at a big construction site or commercial and they need water, they'll go ahead and that part of that process submit the survey. And using some middleware software, we were able to take that survey when it's submitted and go in and create. We'll go ahead and, as you can see there, 57 is the last one. We'll actually go in and create a service request in Cityworks for that new meter install. And so now somebody in customer service or in the water department can kind of see that and be able to go and dispatch that request out. So we'll go head back to the site. So, there's a lot of different options here with Hub, with all of your, YouTube and Facebook, really configurable, really, able to change it. And then as you see, I'm logged in here. So if we wanted to edit it, I'll show you really quickly towards the end of the presentation how to edit this. We wanted to go ahead and show this example out there. Another example that we're seeing a lot of users use is ArcGIS dashboards, to be able to take that same data and be able to get that out to the public, to be able to see, what's going on in their community, numbers, and really give a lot of transparency around what's actually happening and really give that common operation picture to a lot of their citizens. So here is a dashboard. As you can see, Cityworks data, this is current month's open service requests. So you have the map here with all of the current month's open service requests. So for everybody that uses operations dashboard, this is all configurable, but as you click on one, you can see all the information, out of Cityworks, now available to you in a web map and operations dashboard. So now you can do any graphs, you can do any filtering, you can do any of the KPIs that you normally want to do here, in operations dashboard, and share this out publicly, for the customers, for the citizens to use and to utilize. And so here we just have our open service requests in the map. We can zoom in, and as you can see, it's all kind of connected there. So the request number in the bottom left changes, the graphs change, the charts change, to be able to see, all of the all your statuses. Districts, a lot of organizations keep track of and want to know, either by districts, by alderman ward, by council members, how many service requests, are in each of those areas. And you're able to quickly do this and click on one and actually have it filter everything out for you. So you can see, say in this one and then this the northwest one there, how many requests, this month are there and are happening. And it all changes. We're also, as part of that, you don't necessarily have to have the map. So here is that same data broken out, by department. So current month service requests, and you can really get a good idea of, what's going on, what's happening, where maybe the problem areas are in your organization, and be able to quickly see that and share this out. And it's all updated. So as new service requests happen and get created, those numbers will automatically change and stay updated. So that was just a few examples of, on the Esri side, the Esri solutions. But how to get that data is really easy, and it's really straightforward. So here in Respond, we're going to create a new query. And this is going to be a really simple one, a really basic one. So we're going to go in, search, and do a query on service request by status. So we'll go ahead and do the description, and we want it to equal all of our open service requests. And as you can see there, right now, currently in this site, we have 20 open service requests. We can go ahead and save that query. We will go in and create that URL. So we'll add that here, and we'll name it, give it a description. We're going to pick that query, and what this is doing is actually going to create like a view-only feature service of this query. And then now that can be added like any other feature service that you utilize in your GIS. And so we'll go ahead and create that, and we'll open up the URL of this. And I might have it cut off here, but it creates the REST endpoint. And we'll go ahead now into a web map. We copied that. We'll add from the layers, and we'll paste this. And as you can see, I have that query feature service. We'll go ahead and add it to our map in there. So now the data is in there. You can do whatever you want to with it, like you normally would with any sort of Esri feature service. You could, have all your information. So now you can do filters. You could change your symbology. You can utilize this not in just Hub and dashboards, but any other Esri solutions that are available out there. So it's really simple and really straightforward to go ahead and get started with this. So that was just embedded in a web map. If you wanted to add this item, so it's available for you and maybe share it out to anybody in your organization or to just different groups, you can go ahead and add the item from the web, just like you would other feature services, give it the URL, tags, title, and then go from there. So here we have this hub site that I was shown earlier. So as you can see, there's the request, there's some data at the bottom. But here we have added this blank chart. So you go ahead, went ahead and just added the blank chart here. We can go over and add an item. So I'll add the building permits that I had taken from Cityworks, that URL, and have added as an item in my organization. And it goes ahead and populates that chart. So it does it automatically here, it looks like by the login users, but we're going to go ahead and change this to case type description. So now we have a bar chart with all the counts of the case type descriptions for this. And we can go ahead and change the different types, change it to that new chart, and there we go. Change it back to the case type description. Now you have this great looking chart of all the information that's available for your organization, and then you can share this out to public, name it, give it a description, and move on. So really awesome, really straightforward to do this.
It's a really quick time to value. I mean, it's amazing how quick you can create these elegant, easy to use, easy to share, updated on the fly sources of information for both the community, but also your own constituents inside the organization. And the way you just shared, hey, let's look at a dashboard, Carl, and just says, here's the facts. The facts are friendly. You want those in just the, the management side. And then they have the opportunity to just click on the map and say, okay, let me get a deeper level of awareness, not just that that overview, but now I can actually see what's really going on the street. It's amazing how quickly you can have value realized for this.
Yeah, and absolutely, that's all in real time. So as the data is changing, your graphs, your dashboards, everything it's staying up to date, pretty much in real time. So Francis hit on it. Like there's a ton of different examples out there. So really go ahead and search Cityworks, search hub sites. But here's a really good example of Topeka, Kansas. They have a ton of hub sites out there that utilizes a lot of different information, but it also has Cityworks information in here. So here's some inspection and permit data that anybody can kind of go in and look at, and all their citizens and customers, contractors, and developers can go out there and get a lot of transparent information about their organization. So I do encourage everybody to go out and start looking at examples, because there are a ton of those out there. So just to wrap up, really, take a look at utilizing Hub dashboards and a lot of these other Esri solutions. There's a lot of templates that they have out there that are, plug and play, that aren't just Hub and dashboards for transparency, but also utilize them, to empower people that are outside of your departments to be able to share information that they get phone calls all the time. So if they get, phone calls of how many permits that they did this year or last year, or, different information like that, be able to share that out and allow your customers and other people to access that data and get it without having to call in.
The amount of context switching an individual has to do, an individual employee has to do just to respond to some data that could be just sourced really quickly through a URL is really what we want. It's not only just sharing the information, but reducing that time to value for somebody who needs to consume that information, not having that context switching for an employee or another person in our organization. It really affords them so much more time to value by showcasing the information right then. And it creates a new behavior for those folks, regardless of where they are in the organization, that, oh, I go here first instead of going to that person, right? Because the data is being refreshed in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I know that we've got some questions, I believe, but we are working on some templates for Cityworks data, where you'll be able to download those templates, switch the dummy data that's in there with your data and kind of really plug and play. For anybody that hasn't used Web Map Manager, we're going to do some updates to that app this year, but that's a great way to take those safe searches and share those with your AGOL or enterprise organization without having to go through the steps that I just showed. So thanks. I appreciate everyone for being here today. Do we have any questions, Ashley?
Yeah, we do actually. A lot of questions were flooding in before you got to the part about how you get your Cityworks data into the Hub site. So Carl did hit on that. It's using eURL, but if you want to, a lot of the questions were, how easy is it to pull the data from Cityworks into, for example, an Esri dashboard?
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that was as simple as, Carl just showed that. There was another question, and he can always follow up too with some additional information. Your questions are going to be sent to us later. So there was another question that said, the issue I have is the service request data are so large that when I publish the data, it gives me the timeout error.
Okay, so yes, I don't know, and we can connect offline if we need to. It might depend on changing that from a safe search over into your query. That gives you a little more functionality of the number of features that you want to, and it may also may have to just tweak that filter a little bit as well.
Okay. Yeah, that may be a good one to connect offline about. But most of the questions were concerning getting the data from Cityworks into Esri. So we have a couple minutes if you want to expound upon that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is that eURL extension, which I believe is something that you need to check with your organization and make sure you have. Is that right, Ashley? It's like
check CSM, but it is part of licensing. But reach out to CSM to see if you're a URL.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is. It's create any other safe search that you've done probably for years and years in Cityworks. Filtering down that data and then enabling the URL and copying and pasting that that feature service into web maps or adding it to your org. So it really is a straightforward and pretty powerful process for as easy as it is to really be able to share that data out. We see a lot of people do that, to maybe some of the commissioners or general managers that may not access Cityworks, all the time and wanting to log in. They might want an operations dashboard just to be able to see and monitor that data. So
that wraps up all the questions we have. We appreciate everybody attending this session. I hope that you found it useful for your organization. And don't forget to go see our sponsors in the expo hall. And there are lots more sessions today. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks,
Ashlyn.
everyone.
Thanks, Francis.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Ashlyn. Make it a great day.